друзья, meaning good morning friends in Russian. Welcome back to my studio before I sleep from the beautiful city of Moscow. Well, this is the effect of yesterday's snowfall. And snowfall in Moscow is very unlikely in May. Anyhow, because of Victory Day celebrations on 9th of May and the succeeding Saturday Sunday, I got 4 days leave. So I thought I would utilize it to visit Russia's second largest city, that is St. Petersburg. Usually during this time of the year, the temperature and the climate here in Moscow as well as in St. Petersburg also remains soothing, comfortable. But because of the sudden snowfall last night, suddenly the temperature dropped and I had to wear jackets. My flight was from Vnukovo airport. Just for knowledge, there are 4 airports in Moscow. So in order to reach there, I first took a bus to Parkovy metro station. And from this metro station, airport is 11 stations away. Since I already had my monthly pass for my transports in Moscow, so I had to pay nothing to reach airport. It took me around 1 hour 10 minutes to reach airport from my residence. In my view, almost all the metro stations in Moscow are a treat to your eyes. It carries the history of Russia, and some of the stations are being upgraded. Some new stations are also being started. And somewhere I read that by 2030, almost 93% of the Moscow residents of Moscow will stay near the Moscow metro network. So in order to achieve that, 39 new stations are being opened. You can see that I am exiting from the metro station and I'm directly into the airport. This is where the preliminary security checking is done. My flight is at 10:35 SU 6018 of Russia Airlines. Although I purchased the ticket from Aeroflot, so I guess there must be a tie-up between Russia Airlines and Aeroflot. Fortunately, they are using English as well in airports. Otherwise, it's very difficult outside. Not everywhere English is used. This is the passage from where you need to go to the airport gates. And it is quite strange that you just need to pass through these multiple shops and there is no specific different passage. As we see in the Indian airports, there is a specific passage towards the gates and side by side the shops are also there. Well, I guess these are marketing strategies only so that you are lured into purchasing something. I decided to go and check the lounge. To be frank, in India, whenever I went by flight, I reached airport at least 1 hour before to enjoy the benefits of the lounges. And why not? If it's given by the banks, why not enjoy those? But here the situation is not like that. First of all these Visa, Mastercards issued outside Russia are not functional here. And for Russian cards also, there is no specific system that with a certain category of cards you are entitled to a certain number of lounge benefits in a year or in a quarter, as we see in India. Even though I do have a higher variant card in Russia, here in Russia of Unicredit Bank, it did not entitle me to free or complimentary lounge benefit in this airport. Later I came to know that based on my transactions, suppose if in any month my transaction volumes are very high, so on the next month, succeeding month, I get free 2 or 3, whatever the number is, that number of lounge benefits. So finally I board the plane and the flight departs on time and the journey was about 1 hour and 20 minutes. You can see that light snowfall is happening, although sunlight is there. was no delay in the flight duration. The flight landed on time. And there you see, welcome to St. Petersburg. Russia's second largest city is ready to welcome you. The name of this airport is Pulkovo Airport, and there is only one airport in the entire St. Petersburg. There you see the pictorial beauty of St. Petersburg. Since I had already planned to visit some of the places today itself, I decided to first have the lunch. So there was Vokusnai Tochka in front of me. That is the current version of McDonald's. Well, the airport is situated around 22 kilometers away from the city center. So initially I decided to book a Yandex taxi. At first the pickup location was given to some other terminal by mistake, and the driver spoke only Russian, so I could not convey him to come to my place. So I cancelled it. 300 rupees were deducted. Again I booked the taxi by looking at the location properly. But this time I kept waiting and the driver did not come at all. Again 300 rupees were deducted. So finally I decided to take a bus, and the bus is available just outside the airport, and at first I should have taken the bus. So anyway, and just for your information, the Troika card, the Moscow transport card, does not work in St. Petersburg. Here different system of cards is there. It is called Petersburg, if I am able to pronounce it correctly. But if you have just come for vacation and you are only going to stay for 4 to 7 days and you are not going to buy any unlimited passes, then you may not buy the cards out. This card costs 80 rubles, and this is also available just outside the airport in front of the bus stop. But your ATM card works perfectly fine. Although most people prefer to stay at the center, and that is also advisable if your budget permits, I booked my apartment at the Vasilevsky area at 2/93 Vasilnaya Street. I got this apartment at 3,900 rubles per day, and the landlady or the agent was kind enough to pick me up from the nearest metro station. And although she did not know English that much, she somehow managed to explain me all the facilities and the procedure of the apartment. The apartment was at the 4th floor of the building, and from 2nd floor lift was available, and it was a well-maintained, clean apartment. And as you can see, all the basic facilities were provided by the landlord, such as salt, sugar, cooking oil, detergent powder, toothpaste, etc. etc. St. Petersburg was formerly known as Petrograd and also later as Leningrad. It is situated on the river Neva, and unlike Moscow, this river is quite wide. That adds to the beauty of the city. And this city is also the 4th most populous city in the entire Europe, and the world's northernmost city of more than 1 million residents. The city offers innumerable number of attractions for the tourists to visit. But keeping in mind the time factor, I decided that today first I'll go to Peter and Paul Fortress. It was about 40 minutes away from my place of residence. It remains open for all days of the week. On Tuesday from 10 am to 5:30 pm. On the other days 10 am to 6:30 pm. There is no such entry fee to enter the Peter and Paul Fortress, but in order to see the various parts of it, there are separate tickets available. And I purchased a ticket of 1200 rubles. I thought that it would cover maximum of the places, but it did not. Some of the important places inside the fortress had separate tickets on and above this 1200 rubles. Situated at the northern banks of river Neva, Peter and Paul Fortress is the original citadel of St. Petersburg, founded by Peter the Great in 1703, and it was built to the Swiss architect Domenico Trezeni's designs from 1706 to 1740 as a star fortress. Between the first half of the 1700s and 1920s, it served as a prison for political criminals, and it has been a museum since 1924. In the years before and after the 1917 Bolshevik Revolution, the Peter and Paul fortress was portrayed by Bolshevik propaganda as a hellish, torturous place where thousands of prisoners suffered endlessly in filthy, cramped, and grossly overcrowded dungeons amid frequent torture and malnutrition. Such legends had the effect of turning the prison into a symbol of government oppression in the minds of the common folk. In reality, conditions in the fortress were far less brutal than believed. No more than 100 prisoners were ever kept in the prison at a time, and most prisoners had access to such luxuries as tobacco, writing paper, and literature, etc. Despite their ultimate falsehood, stories about the prison were vital to the spread of Bolshevik revolutionary sentiment. The legends served to portray the government as cruel and indiscriminate in the administration of justice, helping to turn the common mind against Tsarist rule. Many inmates, after being released, wrote chilling and increasingly exaggerated accounts of life there that solidified the structure's horrible image in the public mind and pushed the people further towards dissent. Writers often purposely exaggerated their experiences to garner more hatred for the government, as writer and former Peter and Paul inmate Maxim Gorky would later state, every Russian who had ever sat in a jail as a political prisoner considered it his holy duty to bestow on Russia his memoirs of how he had suffered. Well, since most of the details were written in Russian, I could not understand most of it, unfortunately. Even if you don't understand the writings written in Russian, merely looking at the pictures of that time, you do get a feeling that what happened in those times, the historic things. Well, it was 9th of May and it is celebrated as Victory Day across the entire Russia. On 8th of May, Nazi Germany surrendered in the World War II. So 9th of May is celebrated as Victory Day in Russia. So there was some program going on inside Peter and Paul Fortress to celebrate this Victory Day. The fortress contains several buildings clustered around the Peter and Paul Cathedral, which also has a 402 feet tall bell tower. Other structures inside the fortress include the still functioning St. Petersburg Mint building along with the City Museum. This passage along the Neva River is very beautiful for photo shoot and all. This is the monument of Peter the Great, erected in 1991 by Mikhail Shemyakin. souvenir shop also. Items were overpriced, but some items were affordable. I took a few fridge magnets. Well, since there was still sunlight and still some time left, I decided to go to Kazan Cathedral. And in St. Petersburg, sunlight stays till almost 10 p.m. during this time of the year. Therefore, along this beautifully decorated park, I walked up to nearest metro station Gorkovskaya and took a metro to Nevsky Prospect. Kazan Cathedral is just 200 meters away from the Nevsky Prospect metro station. There is no entry fee to the Kazan Cathedral. It remains open till 7:45 p.m. in the evening, and for 3 days in the week, it opens at 6:30 a.m. and for the remaining days, it opens at 9 a.m. in the morning. It is a cathedral of the Russian Orthodox Church. It is dedicated to Our Lady of Kazan, one of the most venerated icons in Russia. If we look at the history of the cathedral, we can see that construction of the cathedral started in 1801 and it continued for 10 years under the supervision of Alexander Sergeyevich Stroganov. The architect Andrei Voronokin modeled the building on St. Peter's Basilica in Rome. Some art historians assert that Emperor Paul intended to build a similar church on the other side of Nevsky Prospect that would mirror the Kazan Cathedral, but such plans failed to materialize. In 1876, the Kazan demonstration, which was the first political demonstration in Russia, took place in front of the church. It later became a focal point of student demonstrations against the Tsarist autocracy. After the Russian Revolution of 1917, the authorities closed the cathedral, and in November 1932, it reopened as the pro-Marxist Museum of the History of Religion and Atheism. Services resumed in 1992, and 4 years later, the cathedral was returned to the Russian Orthodox Church. As of now, it functions as the mother cathedral of the metropolis of St. Petersburg. The cathedral's interior, with its numerous columns, echoes the exterior colonnade and is reminiscent of a palatial hall, being 69 meters in length and 62 meters in height. The interior features numerous sculptures and icons created by the best Russian artists of the day. The Kazan Cathedral is considered to be the model for the new classical style of Helsinki Cathedral, one of the most iconic landmarks of Helsinki, Finland. Another important tourist destination of St. Petersburg is Church of the Savior on Blood, which is situated around 800 meters away from Kazan Cathedral, a walking distance merely. This church remains open from 10 am to 5:30 pm, and on Wednesday it remains closed. So by this time, this church was already closed. The church was erected on the site where Narodnaya Volia members assassinated Emperor Alexander II in March 1881. It currently functions as a secular museum and church at the same time. The structure was constructed between 1883 and 1907. Architecturally, the cathedral differs from St. Petersburg's other structures. The city's architecture is predominantly Baroque and neoclassical, but the Savior on Blood goes back to medieval Russian architecture in the spirit of romantic nationalism. It intentionally resembles the St. Basil's Cathedral in Moscow, which is situated in Red Square in Moscow. So that's all for day 1 at St. Petersburg from my side. Stay tuned for further updates. Do like, share and subscribe the channel to help me grow.